as an image worthy to be imitated and emulated by your family. You know, in Genesis chapter 18, let me take you there. He speaks about Abraham. Now, in Genesis chapter 18, verses 18 and 19, Bible says, since Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I have known him in order that he may command his children and his household after him, that they keep the way of the Lord, to do righteousness and justice, that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has spoken to him. See, this was the role of Abraham as a father, that God was expecting him to model a life, an ethical life, a moral life for his family to follow or imitate. And that's the role of every father. You are supposed to present yourself as an image that can be imitated and emulated by your family. Now, the question is, would you love your children to imitate everything you are doing and everything you are? Every father should ask himself this question, whether or not you would want your children to imitate or emulate everything you are and everything you do. This is a very critical question. Would they be proud? Would your children be proud to have your genes? Your genes. Would they be proud to have your genes? The kind of life you live as a father. Would you want your children to live the same life? Would you want your children to do exactly the things you do in their presence, or the things they know you do? The way you present yourself, the kind of embodiment you present yourself, would you want your children to have your genes? And would your children love to have your genes? That this is the gene of our father. This is what our father is or was, and we are proud to possess his genes. This is a very important thing we need to take note. A father is not just a giver of gifts, but a giver of life. You don't just give gifts to your children. You don't just provide for them. You are also a giver of life. So what kind of life are we giving to our children? It's an important thing to think about. A good father is not someone who showers gifts on his children, but the one who gives himself as a gift to the children. Give yourself as a gift to the children. Let your children be proud to have you as their father. They should not be shy to introduce you to their friends. They should be proud to let all their friends know that you are their father. So you are a giver of life, not just a giver of gifts. This is important. Fathers who say to their children, listen, do not smoke like I do. It's a very unfortunate example of a father. If you know that smoking is not good, you've got to stop so that your children do not emulate you. You've got to stop for the sake of the children. If you know that womanizing is not good, and you don't want your children in future to do the same, then you've got to stop for the sake of the children. At least stop because of the children. At least. So that you will provide a life for them to emulate. That is how a father is. You see, when we read 1 Corinthians, that is what Paul said. He said that you have many teachers, you have many leaders, but you don't have many fathers. I am your father in the Lord. Therefore, imitate me. That is, learn from me. And he said, I'm sending Timothy, my beloved son. Timothy was not a biological son of Paul, but he was a son in the Lord. Paul was a father in the Lord for Timothy. Why? Because Timothy was emulating and imitating Paul. Paul modeled a good life for Timothy to follow. And that is exactly what we have to do. You only become a father to someone if you model a good life for the person to imitate. So let's take note. And the children too, and young people too. You cannot simply call anybody father, daddy. If the person is your father, then imitate his good life. If you don't imitate the person's good life, you don't emulate the good ethical moral behavior he shows you, then he is not your father. You are only being pretentious to say father, especially the church folk who call your pastors daddy. Meanwhile, whatever your father, the pastor, teaches in the church, the good things, the biblical principles and ethics he teaches in the church, you don't follow. How did he become your father? He is only your father if you follow his teachings, his footsteps, and you behave like him. Number 6, the role of the father. Number 6 is that a father, you are supposed to leave a good inheritance to the family. Leave a good inheritance to the family. Let's read from Proverbs 13:22. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22. Let's get that text. It says, Proverbs, a minute, please. Yes, Proverbs 13, verse 22. It says, a good man, a good husband, a good father leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. Very classic. That if you are a good father, you leave inheritance for your children. If you are not a good father, even your wealth will be taken for the and be given to the righteous person. So one key role of a father is to leave an inheritance for the family. Now, the greatest inheritance to bequeath to your family is the legacy of your God or your faith. This inheritance is not only in buildings and cars and money and bonds, but it is also in the God and the faith that you have. So you can leave buildings, lands, money, and bonds and companies and firms to your children. But if you don't leave your children the legacy of your God and faith, they will sell all those properties in no time and blow it up and go and blow time with their friends. Yes. So the greatest inheritance that you can bequeath to your children is the legacy of your God and the legacy of your faith. And in Genesis chapter 50, verse 16 and 17, we can get a text to confirm this. Genesis 50, 16 and 17. Listen, it says, so they sent messengers to Joseph, saying, before your father died, he commanded, saying, thus you shall say to Joseph, I beg you, please forgive the trespasses of your brothers and their sin, for they did evil to you. Now, please forgive the trespass of the servants of the God of your father. And Joseph wept when they spoke to him. You see, this is the story of Joseph and his brothers when they sold him to Egypt. And later on, there was famine on the land, so they went to Egypt for food. And when they went there, Joseph was the prime minister in charge of food distribution. And then they lied to Joseph when they realized that Joseph was their brother they had sold many years earlier. They lied to him that when your father Jacob was alive, he told us that we should tell you to forgive us. So now we are telling you that Jacob, your father, said, forgive us in the name of the father, the God of your father Jacob, for the sake of the God of your father Jacob, please forgive us. So you see that even the sons of Jacob who had trespassed or had sinned against their brother Joseph, in their bid to lying in order to get mercy from their brother, they had to appeal to the God of their father Jacob. This is classic, isn't it? That, Jacob had bequeathed to his children his God. And they knew that if they go behind the God of their father, things could go well with them. This is the greatest legacy a father can leave to his children. See, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, etc. They follow the God of their fathers and the God of their father Abraham. Why? Because in Genesis 24, in Genesis chapter 24, in Genesis chapter 24, verse 34, let's get there and see. Genesis 24, 34. Now, Genesis 24, verse 34, it was said about Abraham. Verse 24. 34 rather. Genesis 24, verse 34. It says, so he said, I am Abraham's servant. This is Eliezer, Abraham's servant, whom Abraham has sent to go and look for a wife for his son Isaac. He said, I am Abraham's servant. The Lord has blessed my master greatly, and he has become great, and has given him flocks and herds, and silver and gold, male and female servants, and camels and donkeys. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master when she was old, and to him he has given all that he has. He has given all that he has. What are they? Now my master made me swear, saying, you shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of Canaanites in whose land I dwell, but you shall go to my father's house and to my family and take a wife for my son. And I said to my master, perhaps the woman will not follow. But he said to me, the Lord, before whom I walk, will send his angel with you and prosper your way, and you shall take a wife for my son from my family and from my father's house. Hallelujah. So you see, Abraham's children, including his servants, followed his God to the point that when Abraham's servant Eliezer was sent to go look for a wife for Isaac, Abraham invoked his God and said, my God, whom I have walked before, will go before you, and he will prosper your ways. So this is the reason why the children and the household of Abraham, they followed their father's God. So bequeathing your God and your faith to your children is the greatest gift you can give, because they can rely on it. You see, Abraham was a good representative of the God he served. Before his children and his household, he made them know that he represents his God, and they saw it in his actions and his deeds and his words. And therefore, the children, as they grew up, and including the servants, could not forsake the God of Abraham, because Abraham became a good representative, a good ambassador of that God, Yahweh.